Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this Tiligi and Gibbons Annual Employment Law Forum webinar. This is Myanmar chapter. I am Nada Songsasen. I am a consultant at Tiligi and Gibbons, our Myanmar practice. I will be your speaker today, along with Yuvadi Tangam, our director at the firm's Myanmar office. So before we begin, we gladly welcome your questions and invite you to write them in the Q&A box on the right side of your screen at any time during the session. And I will address the questions during the Q&A session at the end of our presentation. And with that, I now turn to Yuvadi to discuss about employment law overview in Myanmar. And then I will continue with the termination of employment, the severance payment, and employment dispute settlement, as well as the impact of COVID-19 outbreak in Myanmar.
สวัสดีค่ะ and good afternoon everyone. I am very pleasure to be here and have the presentation for you all about this time because as you know Myanmar's COVID situation is quite important for the investor who already established the company there and how you can manage as you are the employer and manage with your employees in Myanmar. This is today we will bring it up and make more clarifications. As Kunada said, we are very welcome for your all questions and feel free to bring your question during we have the presentations and any issue that you may cross any problem at this time, please feel free to share your question to us. Kunada, can I have some slide? Okay. Our presentation today is we'll have the two main topics about first one about the employment for the overview of the employment law in Myanmar. I think many of you who already has established the company in Myanmar may already know and start for that matters. And also about the second one is about the impact of the COVID-19.
Right.
The overview we will mention about the law, regulations, and other requirements under the many kind of law. Because as you know, Myanmar don't have the Myanmar labor laws, but combined with many laws that we can focus and specific for you to be understand and what is the next step for you to be start for your employment based on this hard time period. Okay, let's start. Okay, I will start about employment law overview first. About the commencements of employment. I understand that some of the company may already start for the employment because whatever is happened, the business need to go and run the business. For the company that already start to employ somebody, as we can call as the definition of the employee here is employees means a person who perform a work that requires skill or moderate skill or no skill for wages. This is the important key is the person who receive the wages under this law, they may comply and they may focus that this person is an employee with any type of the organization who paid that money or that wages or salaries. And another important key that in this employment is about probation period. For the person who already employed the persons, initially under the current law, it's not mandatory for you to employ that person by prepare the probation period. However, based on under the current situations, you may consider about probation period. How about the regulation for the focusing? How long for the probation period? We have many discussion and the same guideline as usually the probation period will be 3 months for the term that will require for the employers to the employees. However, as I said, it's not mandatory, but it is required for you to pay the wage for that person who work under the probation period. And it's not have any mandatory form for this probation period, because this is just only the initially agreement for them. But whatever, if you employ anyone, you need to mention about the appointment date. That is the date that person can start to be the employees for the company. Some people may think about, can we extend the probation period? In normally and guideline, if the officer then know that you already hired this person more than 3 months, they will consider this person as an employee. Why? Because the definition mentioned already that whoever who received the wage can be definite like the employees. After they complete the probation period, what it should be done the next is you need to register the employment contract within 30 days from the date that you agree and appoint that person to be a permanent employee for your company. Normally, the labor township will accept the registration of the employment contracts when you have the employee at least 5 or more than 5 employees. That employee is important. Why? The type of the employee based on the current guideline is just only local employee or Myanmar citizen employee type, because they plan to have another guideline and rule regulation for the future for the foreign employees. That's why at this time, when you register the employee or employment contracts, they may require only the local employee. For the form of the employment contract, it's already issued by the Department of Labor. You need to comply with that. However, you can make some amendment based on your rule regulation to comply with the type of your company. For example, you are the electricity company, you are oil and gas, you are the manufacturing or very special with chemical. That's one you can add, because it has some special regulation that you require the employee to follow under the rule regulation of the company. About the minimum wage, as I think for the company that already established in Myanmar, you already know that this is the comply with the whole country of Myanmar about minimum wage is 4,800 per day. In the day, they calculate by 8 hours. It means 600 baht per hour for the employee who work for the employers. They need, this is mandatory. And for the small business or the family business that have fewer than 10 employees, this one may not require or comply. However, it will depend on the situation at that time. When if they have some investigation in the futures, they have some type of the company that not really like the family matters or just some kind like the normally business. The labor township, who is the respective labors, will consider for you to comply with this registration of the employment contract. Is this possible? About update on the minimum wage that I would like to update to you all. They have some discussion about to increase this amount of the minimum wage to be higher than this, because they have some requests from the employee organizations that they require to increase this amount because it's sometimes it's lower, in not sufficient for them to survive with support their families. However, this discussion is don't have more progress because of COVID situation that we need to bring back and consider about the effect to the employers at this time. maybe it's not suitable time at this time to increase because the COVID situation is quite a big impact for the employers or manufacturing in Myanmar now. For about the social securities, we mentioned about security in this time because it's directly affect to the employer and employee under the COVID situation in Myanmar. For the definition of the worker in actually is not too different from the employees that already mentioned in the earlier law, but they just mentioned about the workers. Workers mean a person who employ permanent or temporarily establish and earn the wage based on their workings. That's why I think it's a worker and employee is seem like not too different. But this type of the worker need and require and possible to register and get the benefit under the Social Security law. Under the Social Security law, they require registrations for the employee to do and mandatory to do that. If not, they may have some penalty for the employers who not register the employee under the Social Security under that company. The same, they require at least 4 or 5 employees to register as a Social Security. But this Social Security is not mandatory only local Myanmar.
Right.
But also foreign employee can register under the Social Security as well. This is the one that we need to consider. It's not employment contract, but it is Social Securities that the person who are working for the company can get benefit based on this law to protect the benefit. Under this law, for example, the benefit for the maternity leave or any leave or any compensate about when you go to the hospitals, about the pregnancy or something like the injury, something like that, you can get that benefit. Some people may talk about if I have the employee only 1 or 2 person, can they register the Social Security? Yes. Under the current practice, they can, but they need to that employee need to be registered by their own. Under the township that they have the address, this is the one that we receive and the guideline for the Social Security officers. About the deductions, for the employee who got the deductions, they need to withhold about 2% of the employee's salaries and 3% of the employer's part. This Social Security will be capped for anyone who has salary at 3,000 baht, 300,000 baht. This is the one that about if the employee need to donate 2%, it means 6,000. For the employer donate, need to be contribute. I should use the contribute. 3% is mean 9,000.
Right.
In each month, you need to pay for the Social Security contribution about 15,000 baht to the Social Security Board. This is the one that important because during the COVID situation, they have some policy that the employee can refund the amount that they repay. Under this, the COVID situation for their survive in case the temporary close for the manufacturing or any order to stay home. That's why they can claim the benefit, this benefit. If your employee not registered under the Social Security, they cannot get this benefit.
Right.
Okay, this is another important part about leave entitlements. You can see that we mentioned 2 laws that relate about the leave. One law is about the Leave and Holidays Act. It's quite old, 1951, yes. And another one is the Social Security law is 2012. However, the Leave and Holiday Act, Kunada, you know, they just issued the rule and regulation for this law in 2018.
18, yes.
Oh, it's very new. Yes, because it's. I think it's most of the foreign company they need something guideline in the detail.
Yes.
Just only in the law because some part of this law is very old.
Just to add up that leave and holidays and have only like 4 pages law.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. Okay. This is the one that's why they issue the follow the rule for these matters. I will clarify you about each type of leave for you more understand with the type of leave in Myanmar not the same as Thailand. Casual leave. In Thailand, they may consider like business leave or something like that. But in Myanmar, whatever you start to employ anyone, you need to get them casual leave suddenly 6 days. This is no any to earn or start. They can get whatever casual leave. This is mandatory leave that you need to provide to the employees. In Myanmar, they use earned leave, not annual leave, because that employee need to work at least 12 months consecutively. It means you need to work first and then you get the leave.
So that's why they call earned leave.
Yeah, that's why they call earned leave. However, some company they will write their rule and regulation that they will use the annual leave and start to give you since the beginning you be joyous. It's possible. It's not a conflict because this is a benefit to the employees. But if you think that I will already give you annual leave, I will not give you casual leave, it cannot because this is under the law. Another one is interesting about medical leave. Why they need the medical leave? Because under the law they said they mention about the medical leave that require the medical certificate from the doctor, whatever you go to the hospital. If you want to take this type of leave, it means in Myanmar, you require to get the medical certificate for the medical leave. You don't have the sick leave. But if your company want to use sick leave, it's possible as well. And if your company don't want to get a medical certificate because they just leave only 1 day, it's possible as well because this type of leave is benefit to the employees. That's why this is the one that we would like to clarify based on the practical under the current situation. The longer leave that we have seen about the maternity leave. This is a very long period for the Myanmars because you must allow the woman who get the pregnant or leave at least 6 weeks before and 8 weeks after before they delivers. This is quite long time, right? Because it's almost, 14 months. It's almost 1 year. This is mandatory as well. However, if you would like to change or they have something like another condition, if benefit to the employee the same, you can make it. But if you want to reduce or change any this requirement, you need to discuss and agree with the employees how they can manage. And the interesting one is added by the Social Security law is paternity leave. If the fathers got the baby and from the date of the wife deliver the baby, you can get 15-day leave, continuous day, including the Saturday, Sunday or weekend or any holiday. You can count continuously. No need to be like just 15-day working days will be a lot. That's why this is just only continuous day for them. And also the federal leave. This is federal leave that said this is important because they just mentioned about family members or parents. It means only the close family only, not just only your relative, your far away or some cousin in up country or something like that. This is the one that we would like to know to you. And adoption, the person who got adoption can get 8 weeks for the child case. This is the one that we are interesting for the type of the leave in Myanmar. But the more interesting is, I have one question to you, Kunada. In 2020, the government already announced for the holiday in Myanmar. Do you think how many days for the holiday in 2020?
Well, I guess around 20 days, something.
Oh, this is outdated, because 2020, the employee can get a benefit for the holiday. This is officially by the government 26 days.
26 days.
Yes, not include the weekend.
So it's almost a month.
Yes, almost a month for them. And how about the 2021?
Well, my guess still be the same at 20 days.
Oh, the same from here. It's also 26 days. This is already official announcement.
Right.
What is an issue come up about this? We had the discussion by the group of the commerce.
Right.
They mentioned they bring this issue to try to discuss with the government about the many holiday leave and substitute days to try to manage, and at least they should provide an option for the employer to select the number or date, or can postpone some issue, because some manufacturing they need continuous for 24/7 hours to manage their products. For the Myanmar, that's why they try to negotiate about the number of the leave and the number of the holidays, and also how to reduce or change or put more option about the holiday to make the employer and employee to be happy and balance for the work together. Okay, this is all my part. I will turn to Kunada.
Okay, thank you. So before we go into another part, I just would like to address that we will be distributing the presentation at the end of our presentation. So you need to remember all the leave entitlement. Okay. We continue with the termination of employment. So from Kun Yuvadi, we learned that how the employment will be commenced, how Social Security will be enrolled, how the leave will be entitled to the employees. So now we are going to talk about the termination of employment. There are 3 significant scenarios to terminate employment in Myanmar. The first one is the employment is terminated by the employer without cause. It means that the employee does not commit any misconduct, but the employer just wants to terminate the employment. So under the law, it requires the employers to provide an official notice. It's required 1 month prior notice for the employer, and still severance payment should be paid to the employees as well. Another option is to terminate employment with an ordinary misconduct. So you might have a question, how can I know what is an ordinary misconduct? The Ministry of Labour provides some guidelines that what activities will be considered as an ordinary misconduct, which have almost 35 items. So in the event that employee commits any ordinary misconducts, the employer needs to provide 3 warnings, provided that the employee commits that misconduct within 12 months period. So you need to provide 3 warnings. The first warning should be made in written, as well as the second warning. However, for the third warnings, which is the last warning, the employer needs to have the employee sign an acknowledgement letter of wrongdoing for the last time. So this is the process of how the employment can be terminated as a cause of ordinary misconduct. And then the last scenario is the employment is terminated upon a grave misconduct that commits by the employees. So the employer can terminate the employment immediately in the event that employees commits any grave misconduct. Again, you may have a question that what is a grave misconduct? The Ministry of Labour again, provides some 13 items guideline of what will be considered as a grave misconduct. So if the employee commits any grave misconduct, the employer can terminate the employment immediately without severance payment. So I list down the severance payment rates for each range of service that need to be paid to the employees. It starts from 6 months to less than 1 year. So you might have a question that, what about if we engage the employee for the period lower than 6 months? The question is, the answer is, if you engage the employees for the period lower than 6 months, there will be no severance payment required.
This is by law.
This is by law. So so you may see that it starts from 6 months to less than 1 year. So you will need to pay half of 1 month's salary, and then 1 year, but less than 2 years, we will need to pay 1 month's salary severance payment. So this is the range of the severance payment will be based on the range of service.
Yes.
Okay. So we provide you with some guideline about severance payment scenario, which situation that you will need to pay severance payment for the employees. For the item 1, it's if the employee voluntarily resigned by himself or by herself. The result is there will be no severance payable. However, if the employee being terminated due to ordinary misconduct of employee, but before 3 warnings have been made. I'm talking in item 4. It means that there still be severance payment required for this scenario. So the 3 warnings, it's a must and it's mandatory under the law that the employer needs to be taken into account. Okay, so we are continuing with, if there is any dispute going on in the workplace, how can the dispute be settled? So under the law, it's called the law, the settlement of labor dispute law. If any company or the workplace has engaged 30 employees, there has some committee we call the workplace coordinating committee need to be established. So the workplace coordinating committee will have 3 representative of employees nominated by each of the labor organizations in case that if that workplace has a labor organization, or it can be nominated by the employee's side in case of that workplace has no labor organizations. And we have equivalent number of representatives of employers. So combined, this will be established a workplace coordinating committee. So the duty of the workplace coordinating committee is to supervise and to review and to settle the dispute going on in that workplace. The point is, if the dispute cannot be settled, it will then be referred to the township conciliation body to settle it. And if the township conciliation body cannot settle that dispute, so the dispute will be referred to regional or state arbitration body. But if the state or arbitration body cannot settle that dispute, the last stage should be referred to the arbitration council, which the arbitration council will form the tribunal to settle that dispute in the workplace. Okay, so we continue with the impact of COVID-19 in Myanmar. I addressed the numbers of the cases that found in Myanmar as of yesterday. So we are now having almost 83,000 confirmed cases, 1,800 deaths, and 60,000 recovered as of yesterday. So it's like a big number for Myanmar. So because of COVID-19, the government decided to issue several notifications to address some prevention measures and some guidelines for the authority to take inspection into the workplace. So the guideline is in line with the Prevention and Control of Communicable Disease Law 1995, which requires the employer shall have a duty to report if you find any suspect case in your workplace. and the employer still requires to provide some hygiene and sanitation at the workplace, as well as the employer will have to authorize investigation of the health officers. The health officers again has the authority to order the person to take like a self quarantine at home. Okay, so the Occupational Safety and Health Law 2019 also provides some guidelines about hygiene and sanitation, which requires the employer to arrange medical checks up for employees and shall provide employees with sufficient personal protective masks, clothing, facilities at the workplace, and shall publish occupational safety manuals, health manuals, guideline, government notification at the workplace. And the last thing is quite important is to appoint a person to supervise the employees about the law, about the guideline that comes up during the COVID-19. Okay, so UD has discussed about the Social Security enrollment in Myanmar. So to provide you some background that in general, the Social Security contribution will be required monthly. It means that the employers need to make a Social Security payments every month. But, like from COVID-19 in Myanmar, the government allowed employers to make Social Security payments quarterly instead of monthly, and also extend healthcare benefits, medical benefits, and travel benefits for unemployed Social Security members from 6 months to 1 year from the date of unemployment. And I am moving to the most frequently asked question that we received from a lot of our clients, that during the COVID-19 disruptions in Myanmar, whether or not the employer or the company can dismiss the employees or can lower salary.
Yes.
So the answer for these questions that mutual consent between the employer and the employee is required.
This is the most peaceful way. Yes.
Yes, the most peaceful way. So you cannot just lower salary. The employer cannot just reduce the salary or dismiss the employment by yourself. You need the consent of employees as well.
I think this is the way of a win-win situations.
Right.
Because the employer understand that the employee need to survive, and the employee need to be understand the employers because the effect of the COVID situation.
Right. And still, severance payments still required if the employees do not commit any misconduct, as I discussed before. And general termination scheme is applied. It means that if you want to terminate employment with employees without cause, it means that the employees do not commit any misconduct. The employer needs to deliver at least 1 month prior notice to the employees and still need to provide them with some severance payment as well.
If some company may think that, okay, if you don't want to hire this person anymore, you need to pay another 1 month to compensate for the prior month that you want them to terminate them. Yes.
Okay. So I repeat again, the severance payment late and the termination of employment. So we are now moving to the Q&A session. You will still be able to submit your questions into the Q&A box on the right side of your screen.
Okay, we have the questions.
We have some questions. I will read it to Kunyuwadi for answer it. During the work from home criteria that implementing for the current situation, if the employees are working from home, there is still like the leave benefits, how the leave benefits or the leave entitlement will be applied.
Initially, is because they have no any others further notifications from the Ministry of Labor or Department of Labor.
Right.
They still have the benefit for the leave as usual. and also they can also take the annual leave and also get the holidays based on the government announcement, because this is the employee benefits. However, yes, you may not know that that person in home or not in home, or just go to the beach
because it's working from home.
Yeah,
you can carry on the notebook and the computer for you anyway.
Yes,
yeah.
But whatever the benefit and the right that need to be reserved, that's why they still receive the same.
The same leave entitlement.
Yes.
Okay. Another question is, can we reduce the salary of employees because of the implementation of work from home criteria that ordered by the government?
I think the same that you already present. Initially, the work from home, they need to because affected by the COVID and ordered by Ministry of Health and Sport.
Right.
That's why to be reduced the salary in this issue, yes, you need to get the consent and make by written agreement together to comply with the, as I said, win-win situation, and also the understandable by the employer and employee what is the current situation. That's why I think the written agreements or written letters need to be signed between if they agree to reduce. But if the employee don't agree, what the employers suddenly make the deductions without informed before, you need to bring this, they will bring this case to the employment township, labor township, to make and solve this issue.
Okay. So we have the last question about, there are still some COVID-19 disruptions in Myanmar. Okay, me and Yuri wants to go back there as well. And is there any channel for foreign investors to go back to Myanmar, or if there is any foreign investors still starting in Myanmar, is there any channel for that to go back to run the business?
I think this issue is bring like 6 months before already. And previous time they're required to get an approval by Ministry of Foreign Affairs or the line ministry who the company that work with, for example, DICA or MAC. But now we receive, the last 2 or 3 months, we received the notification from the DICA and MAC that all the requests to go back to the Myanmar for working, you need to prepare the letter to request to the Myanmar embassy in each country.
Right.
And then Myanmar embassy in each country will have the internal approval by the line ministry and then get the informations. And for further information is you may require to have the COVID test to prove that you don't have any COVID before apply the visa. And before flying back to Myanmar as well. This is a very recent update on this issue.
Okay. So I believe that we have cover all the issues that you might have, and I think we have no further questions. So I think the session has come to its end. So thank you all for attending and joining us this afternoon. So we would like to remind you about, we still have the last session, the last Employment Law Forum 2020 session for Laos, which will be arranged in December 1st. You can still sign up by sending your emails to events@tiligate.com.
Yes, again, if you have any further questions, we feel free to answer along with our presentations, and hope you enjoy our presentation today.
See you next time. Thank you.
Bye-bye.